Do you require a specific environment to write, or can the mood strike you anywhere? I can write pretty much anywhere. I'm lucky. I started out as a journalist. And I didn't quite start out as a journalist. I became a journalist because I'd written a children's book, I'd written a bunch of short stories, I sent them out, they came back, and I looked at them and I went, okay, either they are not very good, which I do not choose to believe. I was 22. I was wrong. That's okay. Or I'm doing this wrong. And what I need to do is learn how to do this right. So I got up the next morning and went, I am a journalist. I'm a freelance journalist and I'm specializing in books. And that means I'm allowed to ask anybody any questions. And they have to answer. Because that's the rule when you're a journalist. And I phoned up lots of editors, and I pitched them ideas and pitched them stories, and some of them said yes. And sometimes before they'd say yes, they'd say, who else have you written for? That was obviously a problem. Because I'd only become a journalist that day. But in those pre-Google times, I did what seemed to me the safest, sanest, and most ethical thing, which was I lied. And I just named the sorts of publications that I figured I probably would have written for if I'd been a journalist for longer and was older than 22. And actually, over the next 5 years, it became this mad point of honor for me to write for every single publication that I claimed to have written for. Which meant, obviously, that I had not lied. I had been chronologically challenged. But I became a journalist, and the thing about being a journalist is it's very straightforward. If somebody says, I need this on my desk at 3 o'clock on Wednesday, they need it on their desk at 3 o'clock on Wednesday. If you are writing up the interview, the article, the review, and you're in a busy newsroom, and people are shouting and yelling, and typewriters are clacking, and early computers are doing whatever it was that early computers were doing in those days. You just ignore whatever's going on, because at 3 o'clock you need to get your thing onto the editor's desk. I remember once getting a phone call from an editor who said, just wanted to remind you that the book review that you were going to do for us is due tomorrow. And I said, no, it's not due tomorrow, it's not due until Tuesday. He said, yep, today's Monday. You have written it. And I said, oh yes. You'll have it tomorrow. And then I said, look, hypothetically speaking, what would happen if you didn't have it tomorrow? And he said, well, we'd have a blank page. I suppose I just sort of put your photograph, your name, your address, and your phone number on it, and let the reader know that they can contact you directly. So I stayed up all night, and he had his thing. And that was all very good and very salutary for a young writer, because I didn't have to have a special kind of tea, or face in the right direction, or have the right kind of day. These days, of course, the question, do you require a specific environment to write, Or can the mood strike you anywhere? It's a different kind of answer. The mood can strike anywhere. You can write anywhere. But you do need to remember that for reasons known only to yourself, you are often trying to write on an entertainment machine, which is what a computer is. They used to be working machines, now they're entertainment machines. It's like trying to write on a typewriter that's plugged into a circus. You know, you suddenly think, well, I really need to just check the spelling of this obscure word, and you look up 3 hours later going, I don't know why I bought those things. But I'm pretty sure that picture of a weasel riding around on a woodpecker's back was real. So you do have to learn to unplug. My method of unplugging these days is wherever possible to write longhand, because nobody can send me email. Well, they can send me all the email they like, but I don't know about it. There is no kind of pop-up that will show me that anybody is sending me an email if I'm writing in longhand. How were you hired to write the episodes you did for Doctor Who? One Doctor Who fan over there.
Oh no, there's a lot.
I meant that to lots of noisy Doctor Who fans. How was I hired? For many years, there was no Doctor Who in England. Doctor Who started in 1963, and then in the mid-80s, it came off the air, about 87-ish, and there was a long period when there was no Doctor Who. And during that time, people would come to me and they'd say, would you like to write a Doctor Who novel? And I would say no. But if they ever bring Doctor Who back, I would like to write a Doctor Who. And one day they did bring Doctor Who back. And I thought, I wonder if they'll phone. And nobody ever phoned. And then I've been watching Doctor Who and enjoying it, and it became a bonding experience between me and my 12-year-old daughter, Maddie, which was great, because you always need things that you can both enjoy. And one day I got an email from Stephen Moffat, who was one of the writers of Doctor Who at the time, saying, if ever you're in London, let's have a meal. And I was going to be in London in about a month, so I said, great. We set up to have a meal. And then I heard a rumour, a sort of secret rumour, but from a very reliable source, that maybe Stephen Moffat was going to take over as the showrunner of Doctor Who. So we sit down, we have our meal. He says, he's saying things like, so you're obviously a big Doctor Who fan. I was like, yes, I'm obviously a big Doctor Who fan. We talk a lot about Doctor Who. And I'm saying, you know, hypothetically speaking, were somebody to ask me to write an episode, I'd really like to do it. And he'd say, well, hypothetically speaking, were somebody to ask you to write an episode, what kind of episode do you think, hypothetically speaking, of course, you'd be interested, hypothetically, in writing? And we carried on like this through most of the first course, and then about the point the dessert arrived, he's like, oh, sod this. I'm taking over. You know I'm taking over. I know that you know that I know that. I'm taking over. Do you want to write an episode? Like, yes. So, that was how I was hired. How did you meet your wife, Amanda Palmer? Somebody put Amanda Palmer there, just in case I wasn't sure which one. How did I meet her? I I met her because I linked to a video one day on my website, and it was a song called 11 Cents by a man called Jason Webley. And I said, this is wonderful, and people started going to the video. And about a week later, I got an email from Jason Webley saying, you don't really know you, and I don't really know your work, but whatever you just did, I've never had more than like 500 people watch one of my videos before, and 50,000 have now seen it. And thank you. And here is a lot of my music, and he sent me a lot of records. And one of them was a thing he was doing, early project he was doing with Amanda Palmer, called Evelyn. And I knew Amanda's work. I'd loved the Dresden Dolls. I played this song and thought it was great. I mentioned on my blog that I'd loved this song by Jason Webley and Amanda Palmer. I got an email from Amanda Palmer saying, thank you so much, and this is who I am. And we just emailed backwards and forwards. Once, not once every month or whatever. And then I got an email from her saying, hey, I just did an album. Here's the music. And I listened to it. It was great. And a few weeks later, she wrote and she said, I was going to do a thing. For the last 14, 50 years, I've been taking photographs of myself dead. Sometimes naked, but always dead. And the album is called Who Killed Amanda Palmer? And I wanted to have 12 or 13 of these photographs in the center. But the record company has just cut the budget. So I'm going to do a book of photographs, collecting all of the photographs of me dead. And I thought, nobody's going to actually want to buy a bunch of photographs of me dead. But you're a famous writer. Would you like to write a few very short stories or captions or whatever to the photos of me dead so that I can put your name on the cover and a few more people will buy it? Which was very upfront. So I said, yeah, because how often is somebody going to ask you to do something like that? I thought, that is one of those things that happens once in a lifetime. And I met her in the green room of the New York Comic Convention. I had a black eye, given me the day before by my dog. And she had just met somebody and had fallen in love, so she was very sort of like radiating, go away, everybody. I'm off to meet my love. And we kind of liked each other. And then over the next 8 or 9 months, we became more and more friends, and we talked more and more. And that was how I met Amanda. And eventually